Among Bloomburrow's tales are stories of strife, stories of struggle, stories of glory. Will you join the circle of life and find your place among decks in this vast territory?
It only flops if it hops. Comment below as we walk through the Week 5 recap of Bloomburrow Standard. Alrighty, folks. In Tier 1 land, we looked at 7 different major tournaments, giving us 56 top 8 slots to analyze. Gruul Slickshot topped our charts with 11 pilots getting to various top 8s and 1 trophy as the cherry on top.
Rakdos Lizards made its presence known with 5 pilots making top 8s and a solid trophy finish to solidify it next in line.
Orzhov Braids was our surprise Tier 1 archetype this week, featuring 5 pilots and a trophy of its own as it went from our Week 2 Brewers Corner all the way up the ranks into Tier 1. Proof that these spicy brews we feature have some serious potential from time to time.
Oh yeah, and my baby 5-color domain made it back to Tier 1 with 6 pilots, snagging top 8 spots, though no trophy was in sight for the Queen.
Down in Tier 2 land, we kicked things off with Dimir Aggro, featuring 5 pilots in various top 8s, but no trophy to speak of.
Then we see where Golgari Talent fell off after a week of having a target firmly planted on its back. 3 top 8s and a trophy are nothing to sneeze at, but it's definitely seen better weeks.
Another surprise out of left field awaited us as Boros Mighty Mouse went from our Week 3 Brewers Corner up to the tier list with 2 top 8s and a trophy. Now, Max, I love watching these spicy brews turn into those finely tuned archetypes, and this one is a thing of glory.
Oh yeah, and last but not least, Mono Red is back with a couple of top 8s and a trophy of its own, as this list continues to shift its threat base to meet the weekly meta challenge.
Over in Brewers Corner, I'll walk you through the birds and the beasts along with human legends.
And I'll take you through a new angle for Orzhov midrange and a spicy Golgari smuggler list. But first, onto our Tier 1 archetype breakdowns, starting with Gruul Slickshot.
Nakamura Hirota smashed a 26-player Bloomburrow Store Championship in Omiya, Japan, snagging the trophy and solidifying Slickshot's spot atop the tier list. Now, 11 pilots may have made it to various top 8s, but this is the only one that sealed the deal, and it is not a traditional build. Because you look at this, the traditional builds are basically mono red with a splash for Snakeskin Veil, Innkeeper's Talent, and Pick Your Poison on the sideboard. This build emphasizes a much more even green split and keeps that fling effect for the full-on Falcon punch at the end. Also, let's note there are 5 Snakeskin Veil effects in the main, and this sideboard is wildly different from the average, using Keen-Eyed Curator, Brotherhood's End, Paw Patch Formation, and even a Torpor Orb, which I haven't seen in a hot minute. So I look at a list like this, Max, and I like where it's positioned. The mana base is far more easy to work with. I know the 4th Thran portals have everybody freaking out a little bit. I get it. I have had games with triple Thran portal down where I take like 10 damage and still win the game because this list is the fastest deck in Standard.
Okay. But really though, do you feel that splashing for black interferes with the deck's mana base, or is playing that sellsword really an afterthought for this deck?
I wouldn't even call it an afterthought, Max. I would call it a last resort that is 99% certain to lose you the game anyway because you're probably too far behind. You know, it's like that super corner case where, yeah, you want to have the option, but if you're using it, you're probably losing still. But every once in a while, like the 0.1% of the time, that's going to be the difference in the game, so why wouldn't we, kind of thing.
I totally get that. I really do. Having a backup plan is essential in this meta. But let's talk about another go fast deck, Rakdos Lizards.
Yote took down a 50-player MTGO challenge this past Friday with Rakdos Lizards, making them one of 5 pilots to top 8 and the only one to snag a trophy. So let's look at how this list evolved. Now, we talked in past weeks about what to do with that go for the throat, cut down slots. Do you do shocks? Do you do lightning strikes? It looks like we're pretty firmly back in cut downs and go for the throats, just some clean removal, which makes sense. If you look at our top tier, you'll see a lot of aggression. If you look at tier 2, you're going to see a lot of aggression, which tells me you don't need to have the extra damage points with shock. You need the removal, and you need it now. Let's also look at the fact that they're eschewing 2 Thoughtstalker Warlocks from the main to play 2 Scales of Shale. This is brand new. This is not something that people have been doing, but it's perfect when you're trying to run mirror matches and when you're trying to beat other aggro decks, because it's going to give you that lifelink that you need to push the final few points and swing that turn that you need it to swing. So I love where this is because it's balancing out what we expected, which was more mid-range meta, with what we've got this week, which is a much more aggressive meta.
Right, right. I have to ask, we've got Mentor in there, Jasper Flint. You're able to play some extra cards with these cards. Does that make, going and fetching the Lizard with Mudflat Village redundant? Or, is that a necessary card in this deck?
So I think this is honestly a bit of a dealer's choice. I prefer Rockface Village over the Mudflat Village. I'm Team Red, all right? But mostly this is because I think the aggression you get from haste is far more important than the recursion you get as the game goes on. I would rather be playing off the top with 5 lands in play knowing that my Jasper Flint on turn 1's hitting for 5 points like a Lava Axe to the Dome versus trying to recur one from the graveyard and hoping that the next turn when I play it, it'll be, fast enough that I'll win this top deck war. Because Rakdos Lizards, it can grind, I get that, but ultimately I want speed when I'm playing, so that's why I'm on Rockface Village.
Yeah, I think that, another reason for Rockface Village is the fact that you can dig through your library with these 2 cards. I like Rockface Village. Let's talk about a deck that I'm really excited to talk about because we featured it in the Brewers Corner weeks ago. Orzhov Braids.
I'm going to butcher this name, sorry guys. Cabezada Bolo took down the Orzhov Mirror in the finals of Saturday's 57-player MTGO Challenge with Orzhov Braids to solidify this deck's rise from our Brewers Corner all the way to the top. So let's look at what they did differently. First and foremost, Guardian of Girapur. I don't know why I've forgotten this card. I swear to God, I just forget this card every time, and then it pops up in something, and I'm like, oh right, that flickers Tithing Blade. This is like Liliana with that. And you get a 3/3 flyer. It's a great body. Let's also look at the fact that they have 3 Elishnorn Mother of Machine in the sideboard. This is really going hard against Domain. That's what I look and I see this and I go, okay, Domain was a bad matchup. You admitted it, you went hard for it, which makes sense because they're going to have Obstinate Veloth. It's going to be a problem, so you don't get to do the Hopeless Nightmare and just like grind them out with all the non-targeted discard because they're going to take advantage of that if they're playing the right build. Regardless, this list, it grinds really well. It's got a lot to it. I played it on the ladder for a while. Did pretty well. I'll be honest. Did pretty well.
Okay, that's good to hear. I love the idea of this deck doing well. Now, I have to ask you about a card that I'm not used to seeing in it, Beza. Does that provide enough interaction and value with most of the matchups that you're going to face to really warrant those 2 main board 4-drop slots?
So in the sideboard, you'll note there's the 2 Hostile Investigator, and those flip back and forth depending on whether you're playing against aggressive decks or you're playing against more mid-rangey control ramp decks. And it's just a question of where you expect to see the meta hedged. I expect to see a lot of aggression right now, so I think the Bezas in the main make a lot of sense. But if you expect your local meta to be, a lot of ramp, a lot of control, probably mid-range, Hostile Investigator looks a lot better because now you're grinding out that value the way you want to be.
Okay, all right. We talked about Elishnorn, and let's talk about the deck that we referred to just now, Domain.
Lucas G1GGs made it to the consecutive top 8s with this build of Domain, including a semifinal finish on Sunday. So let's look at what we're doing here. It's just back to ban. Like, we're splashing into black, we're splashing into red just because of Archangel of Wrath and Herd Migration and Ley Lines. But ultimately, this is a Bant Domain deck, right? The 2 temporary lockdowns are in the main. Expect this to go higher, honestly. If we're going to keep seeing this rush for aggression, just expect 4 lockdowns in the main. I think they didn't want to hedge it that hard, but I would at this point, at least until we start seeing more mirror matches with Domain or we start seeing a lot more control in the meta. For now, with Rakdos Lizards, Mono Red, Gruul Prowess, all that stuff, yeah, I'm on 4 lockdowns in the main hard. Let's also note that in the sideboard, they did a 2-2 split of Veloth and Beza. I think that's nice, but again, I would hedge harder with a full play set of Veloths, given all the discard that we are seeing that's non-targeted. I think it's important, and honestly, for this list in particular, it's critical. If you don't have the Veloth play, you're not punishing them hard enough for what they're going to do.
And that answers the question that I had right off the rip, whether the Veloths were really still warranted in this kind of meta. Are we just kind of a flat answer, a flat question now, but I think it's a critical question. Are we seeing enough of the meta share go towards this sort of discard archetype?
I mean, with Orzhov Braids coming in, I think it's warranted. If Braids is going to stick the landing, you're going to want Veloths because they're going to play Hopeless Nightmares, they're going to play Bandits Talents, they may play Lily. The list we featured that took it down, a trophy, did not have Lily, and I think that's important to note. because we're really only seeing Lily in Golgari Talent right now because they get to ult Lily on Impact if Talent is all the way up to level 3, and that's why they can afford to run Lily. But most of these other lists, no Baloths around, so they don't. That said, Braids is still running Hostile Investigator off the sideboard. You got to punish that play. You know what I mean? So I like where Baloth is positioned. I'd run 4, and I would just try to shore up the weaknesses Domain has, because Domain has the strongest endgame of all the decks we're featuring today. So I don't think you have to shore up the endgame. I don't think you even have to shore up the mirror. I think you have to shore up aggression and the interaction early on that disrupts you.
You're not overstating Domain's endgame. You're absolutely right, and that's why the deck has survived this long in the standard meta, even through rotation. It's been wild to watch. Thank you. Those are all of our Tier 1 archetypes. Let's go ahead and jump down into Tier 2, where I'll start things off with Dimir Aggro. Historius made it to the semifinals of the VML BOP fundraiser tournament last Sunday using Dimir Aggro. So let's talk about this deck. We've got 7 total early pieces of removal across a 3 to 4 cut down to go for the throat mix. And I think that's critical right now. We've already stated when we were talking about other decks already in Tier 1 that you really do need this early removal. We're seeing a lot of aggression out of aggro and some mid-range lists, so I think this is critical for right now. Something that I want to point out that I don't know if I want to call it new, but in the past couple weeks we've started to see copies of Spell Stutter make their way into Dimir Aggro. I think this has sort of filled the void where Make Disappear used to fill, but especially since we have 8 fairies actually in the deck if you count the Dream Thieves. The Spell Stutter does a little bit more than just what Make Disappear does. It does add to that tally. We've got in the 3-drop slot, this is really the card advantage slot, the 3-drop slot with 3 copies of Gix, 3 copies of Preacher. So starting to see a little bit more aggression come out in the 3-drop slot, and I think that's warranted when you see as many turn 1, turn 2 creatures as you're seeing in this particular iteration.
Absolutely. Now, I look at how this list has evolved. We used to play 4 Spyglass Siren, now we're on Fairy Dream Thief. We've shifted Make Disappears over to the Spell Stutters. Do you like that shift overall? Is Fairy Dream Thief actually better than Spyglass Siren, in your opinion?
I like Dream Thief marginally more than Spyglass Siren. I used to play this in a Prof shell, and I like Dream Thief then for the turn 3 ability. Usually when they take it out, you get to draw an extra card later. But it enables that extra 1 mana cost off Spell Stutter, and I think that's critical in the early game. That turn 3, turn 4 is starting to become critical turns in this low curve meta. I also think being able to draw a card while you have your Shelly out there gives you a tiny bit of life gain boost, and I think that's also important. Little marginal victories like that will give you the advantage in this very aggressive meta. And not to mention, you've also got Graveyard Hate not really being a thing, so you're more than likely guaranteed to still have that play later on in the game.
Oh yeah, and I can tell you firsthand, I have not played enough Graveyard Hate, and I got absolutely rolled on the ladder by somebody playing Reenact combo and just get me on turn 4 because I had no Grave Hate. I'm sitting there like, why do we not play Grave Hate? This was a mistake. This was a terrible mistake. So I get what you're saying. The Dream Thief can go a little harder, and Spell Stutter being a mana leak on turn 2 feels really good in Dimir. So fair points. Let's move it along. Let's talk about the deck that was on top last week, Golgari Talent.
Rena Makari won the 54-player VML BOP fundraiser tournament this past Sunday with Golgari Talent. No surprise there. Very, very hefty list. Keeping this archetype alive despite the fact that it's still really got a target on its back this week and the last couple of weeks. We are seeing some slight differences in this iteration here. We're seeing 1 scrap shooter in the main board where we used to see the single Terra Sunder. I think attaching that artifact enchant and hate to a body is really good, but the fact that it's also a 4/4 reach body, very significant in a deep Cavern Bat meta. We've also got a single copy of Gix's Command. This card is known to turn the tables on the aggro and mid-range matchups, really turning it in your favor. I think 1 copy in the main board is warranted given the current meta. We've got the full set of talents this time, Innkeeper's Talent with 3 Vraskas. This deck doesn't try to go completely hard on the combo, and I think that's okay. That's a plus. I think that's kind of like a backdoor way to win. 2 Nisses in the sideboard are also significant when you talk about this combo. And then, of course, as you've already said, Innkeeper's Talent with Liliana really does make the Baloth play irrelevant, and we do see Baloth in multiple sideboards right now.
So, Max, I looked at this and I'm like, there are just not enough 3-drops, right? Like, you got some Lilies, you got some Glissas, you got the Scrap Shooter, but that's only 7 out of what you're looking for in a mid-range list, which is roughly 10 3-drops for curve purposes, but you're only seeing 7 here.
Yeah.
So, I got to ask, is Innkeeper's Talent a 3-drop in this build?
I believe it is, and I think the biggest sign of that is the fact that we're not seeing any Sentinels in this build. Where we used to see Sentinels fill that 3-drop slot, we're now seeing Innkeeper's Talent, really, I think, being considered a 3-drop card. Without a turn 1 body, this card has to be considered a 3-drop. And y'all, I just want to point out, don't dismiss the Ward 1 ability. It's really come in clutch when your opponents want to, turn 2, get rid of your bat, that they can do that, but that's going to eat up a critical turn 2, turn 3 play in many cases and make them spend their whole turn just doing that, just removing the 1 creature. That's significant in this low curve kind of meta. I think the tempo plays are important. I think that's part of it.
I have to assume the God draw for Golgari Talent basically goes turn 2 bat, turn 3 Talent, level up, turn 4, level up again, turn 5 Vraska. I mean, like that.
Yeah.
Imagine how difficult that is to deal with. You've got like a 4/4 flying bat coming at your face, and next turn Vraska's coming down. And you're just sitting there like, it's got Ward, and I have to deal with the talent. Like, that's so much to deal with in the first few turns of the game. And this deck has that. So that little backdoor is fantastic. But we're going to move it along. We're going to talk a little bit about Boros Mighty Mouse.
Let's go. Another Brewers Corner list making it into the tier list. I love this. Boros Mighty Mouse, Shinoda Ryo took out Gruul Slickshot, actually, in the finals of a 20-player Last Sun qualifier in Yokohama, Japan. With this spicy Boros Mice list, Boros Mighty Mouse is here. I think it's here to stay. We've got 3 Quest Callers and 2 Mabels that are going to act as our anthem creatures for this deck. I know this deck is similar to the Lizards deck, kind of like a deck that pings you, it pecks your ankles to death. But with those anthem effects, it can really become significant. We've also got 3 copies of Nettle Guard in here, providing some defense against your typical, enchantments that you're going to see, your talent spells, artifacts as well. The equip cost cards, right? We've got the 2 Lava Spur boots and the Mabel swords that come out. Those trigger Valiant. I just want to point that out. So that's not insignificant. We've got a full set of Manifold Mouse this time. Last week, I actually said when we were talking about Gruul that it could give Slickshot Double Strike. Here, it actually does boost most of the creatures in this particular deck because it is a mouse deck.
Fair. And I mean, Manifold Mouse, I played this a little bit today, actually, because I was curious, how good is this list? The answer is it does race Slickshot, and it does it pretty effectively. Your Manifold Mouses plus Heartfire Hero is a terrifying intro for anybody that isn't packing a lot of removal. Because if you go Heartfire into Manifold, now you've got a 2/2 with Double Strike on turn 2 that's going to turn into 3/3 Double Strike, 4/4 Double Strike. Like, it gets insane how fast that hits.
Yeah.
But my question for you, Max, is I look at this. We've got 2 Lava Spur boots, and we have only 2 Rockface Village. Do we want the boots? Do we want more Rockface Village in the list? What's going on here?
I like the Rockface Village, don't get me wrong. I think we could include maybe another copy of that. But, don't disregard, like I was talking about with Innkeeper's Talent, don't scoff at the Ward 1. The Ward 1, especially low curve meta, early plays becoming significant, it can really mean the difference between, your turn 2 Heartfire Hero dying and, hitting your opponent for 3 power, as opposed to you getting 1 more turn with it and playing a Monstrous Rage and doing much more damage when they finally remove it. So, the 1 ward's nothing to scoff at. I definitely think it at least deserves a little bit of experimentation. I'm going to give it a try in my own Boros mouse list and just see if it's really worth the spot. But, I don't disregard it right off the bat.
Fair. And with that, we're going to move on to the second Slickshot list. Mono Red Aggro has transformed, folks. Let's take a look.
Man, everybody wants an excuse to play Slickshot or play Prowess, and I think red is just a hot color. So we asked the question, why not go red? Here's an example of what you can do if you do just go red. So we had Dagon 1 beats Gruul Slickshot in the finals of Sunday's 61-player MTGO Challenge using the new and improved mono red build. Let's take a look. We've got 2 Hired Claws. Now, this initially has me puzzled, right? There's no other Lizards really in the deck. But don't disregard the fact that it can grow itself over the course of the match, and that's significant for what this red deck is trying to do. We've only got 2 copies of Manifold Mouse this week. It does still boost your Heartfire Heroes and your Emberheart Challengers, so I think it's still a significant card. We're still going to see copies in this deck. For Ren's Resolve, card access is very important. We used to see the Crimson case take up that slot. For Ren's Resolve, I think that's a little bit better, honestly. We got 4 shock, 2 lightning strikes, 1 scorching shot as your burn and removal suite, and then I'm also seeing Might of the Meek in here. It's not insignificant that draws you a card in addition to triggering, your prowess and your valiance.
So, Max, I look at this and where, Mono Red has gone. Is Mono Red just Gruul Slickshot with better mana and less protection?
Wow. So, rather than having protection, it uses a lot of those extra slots for, like, the mice to really boost its power, attack more often. It doesn't have too much of a long-term game plan like Gruul does with Innkeeper's Talent, right? Innkeeper's Talent's there to kind of, like, say that this deck's going to stick around for a second and boost the board state. This really does, to quote something you've said before, this feels like a beat 'em dead red, like get 'em dead red, which is just a classic way of describing mono red. And I think this takes more after sort of the classic mono red that you used to see. So I can see why this deck would be chosen over something like Gruul.
Fair, and it has a lot of interaction early on. I mean, Ren's Resolve is basically just questing Druid without the creature upside, but at the same time, maybe you don't need that. Maybe what you wanted in an aggro meta, maybe this was a meta call, right? Where you think you're going to see a lot of the mirror, and you go, okay, I need more consistent mana, I need some removal early on, and I don't need to grind as hard, because they're not going to have a ton of removal. And if that's the case, this was a really good meta call. So, props where props are deserved. That one was earned. That said, let's move it along. Brewers Corner, let's kick things off and talk a little bit about the birds and the beasts. So, credit to Matt961 Rune 20 for sending me this list. Appreciate it. Also appreciate the title you gave it. I laughed. Not gonna lie. I laughed. It's who I am. Let's look at what this deck can do. So the point of this is that you're trying to go off with Thanos, right? Whenever you cast Bird or Beast, copy it, except it's an artifact as well. Beast, bird, bird. You get where we're going with this? A bird that copies a beast. You see where we're going with this? Like, this gets out of hand quickly. The fun part of this is honestly that Scrap Gorger is going to continue to exile their graveyard, which means they may not have the ability to pay the ward on these beasts. Like, you can ramp into it and all of a sudden they can't touch it. It's basically hexproof against them, and it's beating them to death at 4 points at a time. With the ability to have a little bit of, fun. We get the Salvation Swans to blink some of these birds. And Thanos copying some of these birds also feels kind of insane. Like an Aven Interrupter that gets copied, good luck casting that spell. That's going to be a problem, right? Mockingbird giving you flying beasts, pretty spicy as well. I don't know if the list is good. I haven't tested it at all, but it looks like a ton of fun, so I'm going to mess around with it.
Yeah, it looks like it has some interesting synergies that I didn't expect or even think about recently. But let's talk about another deck, another brew that has some other interesting synergies as well. Orzhov Midrange. Credit to Scal. Thank you so much for this list. And I just, right off the bat, any deck that uses Dust Animus, I'm instantly attracted to, because I don't know why this card doesn't see more play, but it just seems like a really good mid-range card. I love seeing a full set of this in this deck. Black and white. Why go those colors? I mean, you have access to Destroy Evil. You have access to really good single targeted removal, and we're seeing that here in this list. We've also got main board Lauren, which, I think is going to see some play, and I think is actually a useful card in this current meta. I want to point out Zoraline, which is in this deck. We typically consider that a 5-drop because you do kind of want to do that ability right off the rip. We've also got, this synergy right here. 2 copies of Gix, 2 copies of Darkstar Augur. We've got Shelly in here, so we've got card advantage plus Shelly to, enforce the life gain with that card advantage. I love that combination. We've got another combination in here of Archangel Elspeth and Virtue of Loyalty. So this is also kind of a token go wide list. We've got Sanguine Evangelist and Preacher in the 3-drop slot, which both create really useful tokens.
I mean, there's something about playing Shelly and then playing Archangel and giving Shelly flying that just makes my heart sing. Oh. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one, but I love it. I love it. That said, let's move it along to the next list. We have Human Legends. Credit to Matsubara Yusuke for pulling this together. We don't have Slowgurk anymore. That era died, but somebody was bound and determined to give us the next best thing. So, this is the next best thing, everyone. Using Marquesa, all right? I think the point of this is to use Tiny Bones joins up with Marquesa to make sure that you just endlessly fuel and grow your board state, right? You've got Honest Retstein to take the cost down. You've got Relic of Legends to make sure these legends tap on impact. And every time you're just drawing more, putting more pressure, drawing more, putting more pressure. I don't know if this is good. Haven't played with it, but it looks like it's got a hell of an engine. And the fact that you have the ability to play across basically every color, and the humans are good. Like, they're really good in the meta right now.
Yeah.
We've got Lorens, you know, like, this is fantastic to have access to. We have the ability to have early interaction between Inti and Rona. I don't know. I love where this is positioned. I have no idea why the hell there's an Aklazotz at the top, but that's fine.
Aklazotz is fine. No, I can say for sure that this archetype is frustrating to play against. I have played against it on ladder before. It does something really weird for a creature-based deck, which is it grinds. It grinds kind of like I don't want to say a control deck, but it can definitely go the distance, and that's really strange coming from a Legends list, but it definitely does that, and it does that well. But let's talk about our final brew in Brewer's Corner. Golgari Smugglers. Man, this is interesting. I want to compare this to Gruul Ramp, which is a smuggler's list. Let's talk about that. Ramp and remove. These have wrath effects, and I think that's critical. I think that's the thing that the Gruul deck kind of misses. It does have Brotherhood's End, but it doesn't have a really good board wipe. This does in terms of deadly cover-up. We've also got the Virtues in here. Those seem spicy, and I want to keep that. It has access to Pillage the Bog. Pillage the Bog, I think, is critical if you have a combo deck like this where you need to cast that one specific spell. It's going to help you find it. We have access to a little bit, not ramp, but finding the right lands with Armadillo and Heaped Harvest. Heaped Harvest does ramp you up on the way in and on the way out. We've also got access, of course, like I said, to Virtue of Persistence, which helps you reanimate some of those things in case that you can't, smuggler them in. And what is the top end? The top end is 3 copies of Calamity with 4 Vein Rippers and a Vaultborn Tyrant. Whew, not having to go Jund to play those things is amazing. And I think this deck has a chance to really just get one up on the opponent out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. I don't think people will see this coming if you're playing this on ladder, so go try it out.
So I messed with this a little bit, and I can confirm that Vein Ripper plus Calamity is GG in almost every circumstance. But the beauty of that is, unlike that Gruul version, Vein Ripper on its own is just difficult for a lot of decks to deal with. Like, it cold clocks a lot of aggro. Also, a little interaction. Spinewood Armadillo, you can, discard it early, gain 3 life, like it's a herd domain, and then there's your evidence collecting 6 for deadly cover-up. Just exactly right there on curve where we want it. So, love that. Love that. The list is a lot of fun. I played that for like a day. You know what I mean? Like, it was too much fun. I know it's not the most competitive list in the world, but God, is it a lot of fun to just rip Vein Rippers into everybody's face. So, that's going to bring us to our final segment, Ahead of the Curve. For those just tuning in, we use this segment to synthesize all of our analysis into 2 viable options for you to take to your next tournament this weekend. Now, Max, we looked at 12 archetypes tonight. What are you playing going into Week 6 of Bloomburrow Standard?
Surprise, surprise. I have selected Mono Green Stompy. Now, we did feature a great build of Mono Green on last week's Brewers Corner. It inspired me this week to attempt to find the perfect deck to curve out. I'm going to try to be quick because I love everything in this deck, each slot. The 1-drop slot is critical as a foundation to Mono Green. We've got 3 Cenote Scouts, 4 Evolving Adaptives. I think that's a great foundation to build off of. The single copy of Bristly Bill does its thing, but it, interaction with Innkeeper's Talent, it can double your counters. I think this is a 1/1 counter list. It has that archetype within it. A couple of copies of Hunter's Talent. Hunter's Talent is a great fight card with benefits, is what I like to say. That last phase can draw you card and card again with a great board state. 2 copies of the Goldvein Hydra. I call this card flood insurance because if you're flooding out, you've got something to use right then and there on that turn. The fact that it has haste and vigilance. We've got 3 copies of main board Keen-Eyed Curator. I think you need Graveyard Hate in this meta, and you're going to get that +4/+4 stat line more often than you think. Like, you think that's going to take a while. It doesn't. You can typically find a way to get that quickly. 3 copies of Bloated Contaminator, not just for the proliferation, but it synergizes well with 2 copies of Mirex. Gives you, a body to interact with Innkeeper's Talent, but also you might win with poison counters. That does happen.
Fair. And I mean, we didn't get to go through all of it. That was a little quick, my bad.
Right.
But the list is spicy. It's going to be posted in our description for Moxfield. So, export it, import it, have some fun. I think it's a spicy list. But we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what I will be playing this weekend. if I'm on the ladder. Surprise, surprise, I'm on Golgari Talent. So, why do I choose this for this weekend? Well, to be frank, this was this deck, this archetype was the stopping point for 5 different aggro lists for me. I could not get through Golgari Talent consistently with Lizards, Slickshot, Mono Red, Boros Mighty Mouse. Like, everything I tried, I just kept running into Golgari Talent and it was like hitting a brick wall. And I think part of this is that it's set up to eat aggro decks. Like, that is what Golgari is set up to do, and it does it efficiently. It's got a strong amount of synergy, but what it has that all the other mid-range lists don't have is a backdoor combo. And the ability to have that against Domain, where they're going to gain too much life. You're not going to be able to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, that is the point of Domain, is it eats traditional mid-range decks for breakfast. But you have a backdoor combo that they can't easily answer. So I like how this positions itself against a very aggressive meta that has a couple Domain players floating around, maybe has some other mid-range players floating around. This has the ability to push through that, and it's one of those lists that you can tune for your local meta because every slot counts, but there's many of them that can get shifted depending on what you expect to see. Like, for instance, this list, you're seeing like 2 Shellys, 3 Lilies. Not necessarily correct depending on the meta. It's going to very much depend on what you expect to see, but you can shift so much of this deck to meet what you expect, whereas decks like Slickshot, Mighty Mouse, Rakdos Lizards, you're locked in on all but like 6 slots in the main at most. You know what I mean? So you have more flexibility, and I like that.
I like it too. I think you're in a really good spot with this deck. If you can't beat them, join them, right? And Golgari Talent is definitely one of those lists. If you're a good pilot, you can pilot it well and just pilot better than the other Golgari decks, I think you'll win a lot of matches. So good choice, good choice. But that's another week in the books, folks. Thank you so much for supporting us. A special shout out to our members who support the Rebellion by watching us all the way through. We'll be back next week with more analysis.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on this video. Every click helps, every comment helps. We very much appreciate it. And until next time, Rebels, untap, upkeep,
Resist.